Yeah, so this is actually how are you feeling? Dude, this is actually not a bad setup on my end. Yeah, exactly. Wait, was I supposed to put okay, here, hold on. Let me put a bunch of hashtags. Give me actually, Trump, Iran, ICE, immigration. Okay. What do you think? Yeah, so I think I did a pretty good job in terms of winning. I'd say so, simply because he made himself look really bad. And I think that's why people, if you look at the Jubilee video, people are saying if this guy ever does politics, he should never even consider it in the first place. So, so yeah, I think I did pretty good. Yeah. But yeah, once we start debating one or two people, we get in the groove. So, oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, so far 0 people, 0 likes, but that's okay. It's all right. All right, let's see how this looks if I were to like just go on YouTube and just search up. Let me watch some Erfan Ahmad today. Okay, go to his channel. Debating MAGA heads and Trumpies. Dude, dude, it's fire, is it not? Yeah, dude. Do you want to just watch the State of the Union on stream until someone comes in? Are you being sarcastic? All right, bitch. Wait, hold on. How does your Twitch look? Let me look up cute. Just chatting. Oh, you actually have the disc. You actually have the Discord set up and everything. I should probably. Do we have someone? Nice. Folk. Yo, I got a viewer. Welcome. Welcome to the debate. Hold on. I'm still navigating this whole Discord thing. If you want to come up. Wait, hold on. Your camera's not loading.
Mine?
Yeah.
On what?
Hold on. Dude, I have a bunch of tabs open. Failed to start camera for you. Okay. Folk. Baldawoody. Oh, that's my boy back home. Dude.
What do we got going on here?
Dude, this is my boy Bashar, bro.
Nice, nice.
Okay. All right, Bashar, you're gonna have to stay here until we find someone. Dude, your camera's not loading.
Turn off my Discord camera, turn it back on.
Still not loading. Big fan, bro. Hey, I appreciate you. Shout out to all my fans, bro. They really.
Oh, we lost my viewer. That's great.
Okay, I see your camera on the stream, but why don't I see it on my end?
It should be fine.
It says start. Hold on, boys. We lucky. Bro, what is. Oh my God. Fucking technical errors. Dude, why now out of all times? I'll do Woody. What you up to, Thumb? Hold on. Let me close out all these other. Dude. Yo, bring me up. Bring me up. Okay, perfect. All right. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck was happening, but yeah. We're chilling. We're chilling. All right, chilling.
If you want to join and debate us, join that server.
All right.
I'll invite you up.
Yeah, so I mean, until people come out, we could just talk about what's going on. I mean, the state of this country is pretty hectic, and I think we can say collectively that we're divided. We're divided. We're divided. And then Christy Noam, she recently got fired. To those of you watching, I'm sure you guys are aware, Christy Noam, head of the DHS, gone. But where, you may ask? Well, I recently dropped a video on it. But to those of you who haven't seen the video, she is now... Does anyone want to take a guess? Probably not going to guess it. You want to know why you're not going to guess it? Because it's a new role. No more guesses? All right. It's the special envoy for the Shield of Americas. I think I said that right. But yeah, she's taking on that role now. So I think I see it. It's pretty much a promotion. We're putting her somewhere even bigger because now this isn't a domestic role anymore. This is transnational. This is international. We're talking both the Americas. All right. And who's leading us? Not our president in these matters. No. Christy Noam. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The woman who called Alex Preddy a domestic terrorist. Because
it's insane to think that she would call a nurse who spends his days saving the lives of hundreds of people.
Yeah.
To call him what she called him.
It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. There's no other way to put it. And it's a shame. I mean, our nurses carry our backs, not just on a day-to-day basis, ladies and gentlemen. No. I mean, COVID was not too long ago. Who was working overtime every single night? Them damn nurses. So it's a shame that...
And speak from experience, I have 3 nurses in my household, so I know a lot about what nurses have gone through. And to think that the head of the DHS would call someone who dedicates his life to saving other people.
It's
such like a terrible thing.
It's a shame. 10 shots. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not even 8. Not 9. 10 gunshots to put the man down. It's a shame. And, you know, what can you say? I mean, we look back. I personally am reading a book. It's called The Art of Rhetoric by Aristotle. And he says, when it comes to measuring justice, it's not just about whether or not they strictly followed the law. It's taking into consideration, what is a person like? What are the good things that they've done in their life up until now? And no one brought that up. The fact that this man is saving lives on a day-to-day basis as a nurse, no one brought that up. Rather, him stepping in during an arrest. So, you know, ideas that are thousands of years old in books that we still have are just being discarded little by little. Eventually, we're going to reach a point where there's no equity whatsoever. The hell, man, this is going to lead to Trump maybe even having a third term. So, yeah, equity out the door, due process out the door, regular elections out the door, anything democracy related out the door. These are scary times. These are troubling times, but it's all right, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we're here to debate these folk. So, yeah. I think it's time to play Brawl Stars.
Dude, stop. Like, not now. Like, we're in the middle of
All right, my bad.
shit.
My bad. Folk, big fan, bro. Dude, Al Dawoodi. Drop some W's in the chat if you're still here, bro. Dude, W.
The weather is getting, like, really bad outside. Damn, it just flashed lightning.
Dude, all right, let the viewers know. Where are you calling from?
I am up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, over 2,000 miles away from my boy Erfan here.
Yeah.
Proud to be here.
Yeah.
Known this man for 6 or 7 years. No pun intended.
Damn.
Been a yeah.
And he left.
Yep, Conan from the great Ann Arbor, Michigan. Who doesn't love Michigan? It's a great state.
Yeah. It's beautiful. You know, I've never been. But
very beautiful.
I'd
especially in the summertime and the fall.
Yeah. How much snow do you guys get right now?
We have no snow outside right now, but the most it got this year was 6 to 8 inches on the ground at a time.
Damn. Well, I mean,
and the snow melting gets so bad here that it fogs and the air quality index gets really bad.
Yeah.
So that's what happens whenever a lot of snow melts.
Well,
the air quality index was, I believe, 25% on the bar from just snow melting.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're in the wrong M state. You should be in Minnesota. Dude, that's where everything's happening right now.
I don't think I want to be there right now. To be honest, there's stuff going on there. And I know I feel bad for Minnesota residents, but what's happening there is pretty fucked up. So
yeah.
Do you have any viewers?
I have one viewer, yeah.
I have put the Discord server in the chat. Keep posting it like every 10 minutes. Keep posting it like every 10 minutes.
Okay. Can I hide the sidebar in Discord so it's only the stage that's visible?
Move your mouse to the stage, and then at the bottom right, it'll say full screen.
Okay, boom.
You got it in full screen?
Yeah. All right, Dawoodi, drop more W's in the chat if you're tapped in.
He's tapped in, all right.
Yeah. I need engagement. Wait, I should drop. Can I drop a community announcement if I drop them today? Let me fix it. Dude, dubs, bro. Dawoodi, you're actually a real one, bro. All right, this is our Discord. We got it up. Join up if you feel as though you got an opinion worth hearing, an opinion worth engaging with, especially one that aligns with the current administration, because that is what we're tapping into today. And yeah, if you are adamant with your support for this man currently in office, then not only do you probably believe he should run a third term, but you're also un-American. That's right. I said it here, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. That's right. And if you disagree with me, come say something about it. That's right. And to those of you
Huh? I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just about to say. And to those of you that haven't seen it already, I'm coming after all y'all. Deaf Noodles, gone. I can't say the next word, but you get the point. No, I keep it civil though, and all jokes aside, we're building productive dialogue, but these ideas are getting squashed. All right, what were you gonna say?
Keep in mind that we are going to be maintaining a friendly political discussion. No
Oh yeah,
hatred towards one another. No disrespecting. If you have to call us a dumbass, then do it like once or twice, but don't get too big on the insulting. Of course, we are open to normal political discussions, but we are mainly going to be centered around um, debating Trump supporters. Of course, if you feel like you have an opinion that needs to be expressed, even if it might align with ours, you're always welcome to come up and we're willing to have a chat. We can alternate between debating and chatting topics.
exactly. So, I mean, that's what it's all about. And then, you know what? With that being said, let's talk about current events. What else has been happening? Something that's been happening, and I'm sure we're all aware, are our tax dollars being spent overseas in no other place than Iran. What do you think about that, Drake?
I feel like we aren't putting our taxes in what taxes are meant for. Taxes are meant to be used by citizens and consumers. Who's behind you?
Dude, this is my roommate. What?
I just came up looking at the picture
What picture?
that AI generated.
Dude, wait, how'd you see it?
You posted.
He saw your Instagram
Oh.
story.
Oh, shit. Well,
But I think that it is important to.
Why'd you include a picture of it?
wait, was I not supposed to include a reference picture of him?
No, you were, but it was just so small in the corner. I looked it up.
Dude. Should I have gotten into a tux for this?
No, you're good. I'm in a Carhartt shirt, dude.
A what?
What you guys doing?
As I was saying,
During a debate.
I think that it is okay to use our tax dollars for outside sources that don't involve like mainly the United States, but like I still believe that we're misusing our tax dollars to directly benefit and influence the power of the rich and our president. These tax dollars could go towards public transportation, universal health care, all other stuff that would make America more like what our founding fathers wanted of America, not enslaving people and picking people up on the streets and murdering them. We should be utilizing taxes more on stuff that will directly benefit the United States of America, not just POTUS and the rich.
Yeah. This is a problem. We're getting a lot of dollars being put in this man's pocket. And, people want to talk about Democrats getting rich. Like, I know Ilhan Omar increased her net worth from 60,000 to what, 6 million during her time in office? Sure. But then if we're going to hold those kinds of people accountable, why don't we also hold accountable the fact that this president has had the greatest net worth increase in his entire presidency compared to any other person in office in the entirety of America's history? Why don't we talk about that? For reference here, because I have the numbers pulled up, Joe Biden's net worth, ladies and gentlemen, from the start of his presidency to the end was no more than $6 million, roughly 2.5 million to 8 million upon taking office to approximately 10 in 2024. So even less than that, right? But when we put in the numbers and we look at them from Trump's end, ladies and gentlemen, we're not in the matter of single millions anymore, right? We're not discussing single digits anymore in the millions. We're discussing billions of dollars. 3 billion in 2017 to 2.3 billion in 2021 was the drop, but then it increased to 7.3 billion, not million, billion. And I genuinely don't think that people understand the difference between $1 million and $1 billion. And I saw this on Joe Rogan the other day where this guy put it into perspective. But Drake, can you guess how many days make up a million seconds?
1,000,000 seconds. 60 seconds in a minute, which would mean 360 seconds for 6 minutes, which would mean 3,600 seconds for an hour. 24 hours times 3,600.
All right.
All right, dude. You don't like you can just give us a guess. How many days do you think?
86,400.
A million seconds. How many days do you think that makes up? Dude, are you using a calculator?
130 days.
No, the answer is 11 days, but good guess. But
Whoops.
how many days do you think a billion seconds makes up? We know a million makes up 11 days. How much do you think a billion does?
That would be 1,000 days.
31 years. That is the difference between a million and a billion. And this man in office has accumulated billions, billion plural, not millions, billions. So I hope that puts it into perspective for the American people. And yeah, this is, like you said, this isn't what the founding fathers imagined. They didn't imagine or picture an oligarchy with this much power. They didn't picture a man in office that's benefiting and profiting off the system that he's managing, whether it be tax evasions for the very top 0.0000001%. They didn't imagine any of that. And it's a shame. It's a very big shame. But shout out Zoran Mamdani with his socialist policies. Universal childcare. Dude, where are these Trumpies at? They're lurking. I know.
don't know, bro. I don't know.
Don't get discouraged.
I'm gonna advertise.
Also, why don't we just do episodes? All right, bro. What do you mean,
You just say eh.
Dude, no one's talking.
I don't know.
What?
Bro, he's low-key kind of cake.
Dude, why are you changing in my live stream, dude? Stop changing in my live stream. Get out the frame.
Dude. Crazy.
Dude!
Calm down.
Dude, where are they? Dude, I'll do it. Drop a W in the chat. Yo, I think he's gone. I'll
No
do
way.
Woody. No.
No way. Well, let me make my Discord profile like online so that people know that I'm streaming.
Alright.
So that like I can gain anybody that I might not know is a Trump supporter that's on my friends list.
Yeah. Should I post it on my Instagram main story or just put it on my note?
Put on your main.
Main story?
Yeah. Put the fucking AI image on there, bro.
Dude.
That's gonna be so funny.
Did I actually do that?
Yes.
3.
Appreciate it.
Okay, what song should I put?
Oh,
We got someone in the audience. We got someone in the audience.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. All right. First, the debates. Before I let you up here, I just want to let you know that we're going to keep it calm, no disrespect. We're going to voice our opinions, give our opinions back without insulting one another. I'll go ahead and let you up here.
What's up?
Welcome. Welcome.
How are you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. Can't complain. Can't complain. First of all, I appreciate you for coming up here and being entitled to your opinion, because a lot of people don't have the will to do that. I'm sorry that came off. I could have worded that completely better, but thank you for being bold enough to share your opinion, first of all. And then secondly, could you let us know, are you coming in from YouTube or Twitch?
There's a little bit of reverberation when you talk. I don't know if it's picking it up on someone else's mic.
You could be watching one of our streams.
Yeah.
You might just need to turn it off.
Okay. All right. I fixed it. I'm coming in from YouTube.
Okay. Perfect.
But it's on Discord.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
All right. So could you please tell us what makes you so fond of this current administration right now?
Yeah, I support the war with Iran. Obviously, it hasn't been officially declared a war yet.
Yep.
But I support the strikes on the Iranian regime.
Okay, and could I ask, why is that?
Primarily because I don't believe that Iran should possess nuclear weapons, and I think the regime has clearly indicated that they desire to possess nuclear weapons. Yeah, that would be the main reason.
Okay, so when you say the regime has clearly indicated that they have a desire for nuclear weapons, could you cite any specific circumstance where they did?
Yeah, for sure. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh yeah, so the specific thing I would cite would be the JCPOA that we, under the Obama administration, created. It was between us, Russia, China, the European Union, which limited Iranians to 3.67% enriched uranium. And then Trump pulled us out of the agreement in 2018, which, by the way, him pulling us out of the arrangement doesn't invalidate the arrangement, just so we're aware, right? In the same way, if you're a member of the Paris Climate Accords, just because one state pulls out or doesn't meet their obligations, that doesn't automatically give you authorization to violate the agreement either.
Right. So,
and that's also,
yeah, all right, go ahead.
And that's also nowhere in the document. I read the entire document. Nowhere in the JCPOA document does it indicate that if one member state pulls out, that authorizes Iran to go beyond that enrichment level of 3.67%. So that would be the first argument, is that they violated the JCPOA after we pulled out. And then the second argument as to why I believe that they were planning to enrich uranium in order to get a nuclear weapon is because I think it was 2 years after we pulled out in 2018. Within 2 years, they had enriched uranium up to 60%. And if you look at a statement from the IAEA, which was the organization that was in charge of managing and monitoring Iranian enrichment, the general secretary, I think his name was Rossi, he said that Iran is the only nation that has enriched uranium to these levels that is as a non-nuclear state. So that is to indicate they've enriched far beyond what would be necessary for medical or industrial purposes. I bet you didn't expect your first caller to be like this, bro. I'm sorry. I hate to do this to you.
No, you're
All right,
good.
to do what? To do what?
I hate to hit you. No, it's good. You can hit me with your counter.
Okay. Yeah. So firstly, the JCPOA that you cited, I'm glad that you actually brought this up, because this was a landmark that was in 2015, right? So this goes back to Trump's first term. I just want to point that out, because I think you said that this was during Biden's term, which is, unless you were talking about when Trump pulled out, but that wouldn't make sense, because Trump pulled out of this deal, which I'm sure you're aware of.
I thought it was under Obama. the JCPOA.
No. The JCPOA was under Trump with Iran. And then when the US pulls out, and Iran that's already untrustworthy of America is going to be expectedly pulling out of this deal if America is out. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I'm going to expect you to defend why Trump would be pulling out of this deal knowing that this decrease, do you know how much uranium enrichment this decreased with Iran? Because this is very
But yeah, but just to clarify, it was under Obama. The JCPOA was created under the Obama administration, which is fine. Like it's still a legitimate
it went
deal.
into effect during Trump's term.
Trump pulled out of it in 2018.
No,
but the deal was negotiated under Obama.
No, I'm letting you know it took effect January 16, 2016. I don't know where you're.
Yeah, but I'm saying the deal was negotiated in 2013.
Negotiations are irrelevant to this. I mean, this is when it's going into effect because the entire purpose of the JCPOA or the JCPOA is to enact the reduction of uranium enrichment. So now I'm asking you, do you know how much uranium enrichment decreased with Iran after that deal?
Significantly. They went down to 3.67%.
Yeah, so it was 98% decrease in uranium enrichment. So this was ultimately a success for the US. We had an Iran that was nowhere near building a nuclear weapon. But then Trump decides to pull out of this deal. And I'm just wondering if you have any defense as to why it would be legitimate for the US to pull out of a deal when you quote that our intention is to not have Iran have a nuclear weapon. Because I agree with you. I don't think that Iran should be possessing a nuclear weapon. But why would Trump be pulling out of this deal with an already untrustworthy Iran?
Well, I mean, as I indicated in the prior statement, even if I don't agree with Trump pulling out, which I don't necessarily agree with, I think we probably should have stayed in the deal. But even with pulling out, that doesn't authorize Iran to enrich uranium beyond what the deal indicated. That's not how like a multi-nation-based agreement works, right? So if you make an agreement,
it doesn't authorize them, sure, but it doesn't mean that they're entitled or obligated to stay within the deal, just like how the US wasn't technically obligated to stay in the deal, meaning Trump was able to pull out and he did exactly so. So no one is, and at the end of the day, obligated to stay part of the deal or obligated to leave. So when you say that Iran wasn't obligated to leave the deal just because the US did, the US wasn't obligated to leave either. So when the US leaves, I think it is the entitlement of any other nation within this joint program to leave. So I don't understand the argument there that the US left, but that doesn't mean Iran had to leave. Why did the US leave? The entire point of this was so that we don't have a nuclear Iran. And the US was the main backer to this entire deal. So why would the US be pulling out of it? Trump made a big mistake. And this is exactly why we have the enrichment we do with Iran today. And to further address your point, actually, first, I just want to see if you have anything to say about that, and then we can move on. But unless you can agree that he made a big mistake and that Iran was not obligated to stay once the U.S. left.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would agree he made a mistake pulling out. In terms of whether Iran was obligated to stay, I would say in a multinational agreement like that, like, you know, in the same way with the Paris Climate Accords or other international organizations, just because one party pulls out doesn't automatically mean that you have a right to pull out. So no, Iran wasn't obligated or required to pull out, and they probably shouldn't have pulled out just because we pulled out. But I understand why they did.
Yeah.
But
it creates incentive.
That would be as far as I'm.
That's the thing.
Yeah, for sure. That's fair.
Yeah. So like if me and my panelist over here made an agreement to come onto the show and do everything here, neither of us are obligated to be here, right? But I mean, if he leaves, he's under no obligation to be here. But if he were to leave, that creates incentive for me to leave as well. Because the only reason we have a deal here and the only reason it has any sort of value is because we're both collectively willing to put ourselves in this position, vulnerable or not. So when he leaves, since he wasn't obligated to be here, it's going to create incentive for me. So I just thought I'd make that example to illustrate that there's incentive created as a result of the U.S. pulling out of the deal. The JCPOA was big. It was huge. And people don't talk about the fact that Trump pulled out of this, especially with the MAGA supporters that I'm come across to time. They don't acknowledge that Trump was the one that pulled out of this deal. And it's why we have this messy issue that we do today.
Well, I would disagree. I would push back on a few points there, right? So again, as I indicated, just because Trump pulled out of the deal, that doesn't authorize nor allow Iran to pull out, right? So
I'm
in a
explaining.
multinational,
Yeah,
can I finish?
no, but like that's a flawed argument in and of itself.
Well,
Because like
but I'm going to push
you're
back.
going in circles.
I'm going to no, but I'm going to push back against your argument. For starters, so as I said, like just because the U.S. pulled out doesn't mean that Iran's authorized to pull out, nor does the agreement indicate that you have the right to pull out if one other party pulls out. But that's beside the point, right? So the analogy you made with you and your friend, well, if my friend doesn't show up to this podcast, like I wouldn't have to show up. It creates certain incentives. I mean, it's kind of a weird analogy because we're dealing with a party pursuing nuclear weapons that are capable of killing millions of people, and they've indicated multiple times that they would use those weapons against innocents, right? So it's kind of disanalogous in that way.
I don't think it's disanalogous just because the circumstances are different. That's an illogical claim to make, that because my analogy has different circumstances that it can't parallel this analogy. But sure. But what I'm gonna say is
No, because the implications of you not showing up on this podcast are like nil with respect to the amount of people watching us right now, right? But the implications of someone having a nuclear bomb capable of killing millions of people, it's pretty disanalogous.
I don't think the circumstances that are dependent on me and my friend pulling up here makes it inanalogous just because people are dependent on the deal. And the deal in and of itself is isolated when I'm making this analogy. The deal here is that the US and Iran are both in here in the JCPOA, alongside with Russia and China, which, by the way, the US became deeply unpopular with Russia and China after this. I mean, even though they already are, and even though they are global enemies, this further deepened that position of a connection that they had with both these countries. And so for you to repeatedly say that Iran wasn't obligated to leave, that argument doesn't make sense because that same obligation doesn't apply to anybody. That's not how a deal works, right? That's not how this coalition works here. I mean, you're talking in legal terms. Iran wasn't obligated to leave. Sure, just like how the US wasn't. So how do you address that?
Yeah, I mean, my primary argument isn't that because they left the agreement that we have a right to strike them. I'm just creating a baseline that they didn't have the right to leave in the
Right,
same way
yeah.
we did. So
Okay.
as long as you're willing to grant that baseline, then I can develop my further argumentation as to why the strikes are necessary.
Well, I think you already developed your argument. Or rather, I'm expecting you to concede on the fact that it's not a legitimate argument to say that Iran wasn't obligated to leave. Saying he should have stayed or should have, would have, could have. That's kind of what it parallels. Saying that Iran wasn't obligated to leave just because the U.S. left. That's not how reality works. That's not how the game theory between these two countries works, right? When one player leaves, that creates incentive for someone else to also leave. So to say, oh, well, they didn't have to leave, that's not really an argument.
Yeah, I mean, well, it definitely is because, right? So what you're basically saying, what you're basically saying there is like we're operating on a real politique level, right? So if we're recognizing
Yeah.
that any sort of legal obligation or international agreement between mutual parties is merely enforced by if somebody leaves, then we're all allowed to leave. Then okay, then it all comes down to military force. We have the military force to destroy the Iranian regime. Okay, I guess I win, right? So it doesn't.
So you agree that a legal obligation was at play here with the JCPOA, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I don't know how it's actually defined, but I'll grant that.
Yeah, so you'll grant it, right? So under what jurisdiction was the US under Trump's administration to leave this deal?
Yeah, I don't believe that they should have left.
Okay. So if that goes against your beliefs, then what incentive in this scenario does Iran have to persist and follow the legalities of this rule if the US is breaking them? I don't like that. The obligation to follow the laws that bind this coalition are out the window the moment one player refuses to maintain them.
Because Iran benefits immensely more from the deal than we do. Because as we're demonstrating with our combined military force with Israel, we have the military capability to destroy you. You don't have the military capability to respond. So you're in more of an incentive position to adhere to the deal than we are from a strictly force standpoint.
There's That's not true. That's the thing. When the U.S. is not part of this deal, Iran is at first of all, Iran decreased 98% of its enrichment. So for you to say that they're benefiting as a result of this deal is just plain blatant bogus, right? And I don't think you understand that because one player leaves, another player feels no obligation, and we're just gonna keep going in circles here. I mean, the U.S. had incentive in here. That's not how diplomacy works, where the U.S. breaks a law in a joint coalition that it builds with Iran. But even though the U.S. leaves, Iran still has incentive to, because we're still gonna bomb you, even though we're breaking the rules that we set in place to negotiate. Right? That's not how diplomacy works.
Well, and just in full transparency, I disagree with the whole JCPOA as an agreement. So I don't even think that agreement should have ever been struck in the first place. I think it benefited Iran way too much. It gave them way too much benefit of the doubt that they hadn't earned the right to have, right? So
How
when you
has
look
Iran
at
not earned that right?
because they've been sponsoring mass terror with basically proxies throughout the Middle East and parts of Europe and Africa for the last 40 years. When you look at when you look at their relationship with Yasser Arafat after the 6-Day War in Israel, where they were clearly using extremist language and they were funneling weapons and guns to kill innocent people, that part.
Okay, so are you familiar with the IAEA? We'll get to the proxy wars.
Yeah, the IAEA was what was under the JCPOA.
Yeah,
That's who was measuring the amount of enriched uranium that Iran had.
yeah. So that's what initiated this entire deal. That's what gave them the green signal to be able to make this deal happen and be brought to fruition in the first place. So for you to say that Iran was under no transparency or no green light to be able to go into this deal because they benefit way too much is just bogus. And I mean, we have the IAEA for a reason. And, someone like Israel, who is not transparent at all whatsoever, who is the entire reason that Iran is being striked right now, is not. They're not transparent with their IAEA checks. Meanwhile, Iran was leading up to that point, which is why they were initiated with the deal. Hence the several countries that were involved in this.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm saying the JCPOA as a deal was a bad deal that gave way too much benefit of the doubt to Iran, but it was a deal that was struck for sure.
So do you disagree with the authority of the IAEA?
No, I don't have a problem with the IAEA.
Okay, so when their authority concludes that Iran is being transparent with your uranium enrichment, do you reject that?
You mean while the deal was still operative?
No.
Oh, then I would say
I mean,
yeah,
it doesn't
because
matter.
there's a
It's
quote.
like regardless.
Well, what about this quote from 2025 from Rossi where it says that Iran is enriching uranium far beyond what's necessary for civilian or infrastructural use?
I'm sorry, we're talking about the JCPOA when it was initiated, and was that in 2025 or was that in 2016?
Well, that's why I just asked you if you're talking about the IAEA under the JCPOA, or you're talking about after the JCPOA agreement was kind of done with.
No, look, listen. You made the claim that Iran was under no green light or under no circumstance to be able to be part of this deal because they benefit way too much. I am responding to you by pointing out the IAEA checks and the transparency levels that Iran maintained up until the manifestation of that coalition. So now I am asking you, do you disagree with the authority of the IAEA and their judgment of Iran being transparent?
No, I trust the IAEA that their analysis of the amount of enriched uranium that Iran had was accurate. What I was saying is that I disagree with the JCPOA as a framework for Iran. I don't trust
But
that it's a good deal.
yeah, but that's where that trust is built on. That international organization that's checking the transparency of these countries with uranium enrichment, that's where that jurisdiction comes on. That's where they look to. That's their source, right? And Iran has met that quota. They have met that satisfaction of transparency to be able to be part of this deal. So I don't understand why there's any other reason to disagree with the framework when we have a collective organization, which all these countries are a part of, pointing out the transparency of Iran.
Yeah, I mean, it was well, it had sunset clauses in there, so it's not as if the JCPOA agreement was indefinite,
Sunset
right? It had sunset clauses So it had clauses in there that allowed further enrichment after 15 years. I think the whole thing expired after 15 years anyway, from what I remember. So I don't really, I don't view, I'm just saying I don't view the JCPOA as a good obligation, particularly because here's what I really think from Iran's position. Iran's like, look, we know if we try to enrich beyond 60%, that the IDF and U.S. intelligence forces are going to be aware of it. We know that they're monitoring our nuclear sites extensively. We're reporting it to the IAEA. We know that we would be caught if we enriched beyond 60%, because they went from 3.67% to 60% in like 2.5 years. We know if we push much beyond this, Israel's going to strike. So we're going to stay at 60% and kind of use it as leverage. Like, we could quickly enrich to 90% and get nuclear weapons, but we know that we'd be struck really hard if we try to do that. So we're going to stay at 60%. But the overall point I'm making is that the Iranian regime themselves are fundamentally a fascistic, religious, ideological regime that shouldn't, under any circumstance, they shouldn't even have nuclear power. Like, if you ask me, like, should we stop? 100%, they shouldn't even have nuclear power. Like, it's too risky. Like, if you asked me, like, should we allow North Korea to have nuclear power, I'd be like, under a regime where one got God, probably not.
In a perfect world, no one has nuclear power, right? The entire reason why these countries are building up nuclear weapons is as a deterrent for any other country that serves to pose a threat, right? So this argument that if it were up to me or North Korea, well, I think we're all collectively agreeing that no one, especially Iran, I guess in this case, Iran shouldn't be having a nuclear weapon, point blank, period. But first of all, sunset clauses, first of all, I think that is irrelevant, and I don't think that serves as a falsehood to Iran's legitimacy in being part of this deal, simply because a lot of countries maintain uranium enrichment because, surprise, surprise, this can be handled for everyday use. It's not just nuclear weapons. And you cite 60% or a lot. So I have to ask you, do you know the percentage of uranium enrichment that a country would need to be able to maintain nuclear weapons?
I believe it's 90%.
Right. So 60% is a safe number by a margin of 30%. It was also the deal breaker within the JCPOA. So, I mean, I think it's crazy for you to sit here and disagree with the most effective form of diplomacy that we've had with ensuring that Iran doesn't build nuclear weapons, especially capping out at 60.
Well, no, the JCPOA didn't cap out at 60%. It capped out at 3.67%. And then 2 years after we left the arrangement, in 2018, when we left the arrangement, Iran, within 2.5 years, enriched up to 60%, which is beyond what you need. Which is beyond what you need. Yeah, but the point I'm making is that Iran enriching to 60%, which, as I already indicated by the IAEA secretary, is beyond what you need for military or civilian use, indicates that they were pursuing, or they were building up as far as they could build without the knowledge that Israel and the US would strike if they tried to go really quickly to 90. That's exactly what they were doing. There's no reason for civilian use to go up to 60%. So now the reason they did that is because they wanted the potential to build a quick deterrent, because they know once they have nuclear weapons, they can't be gotten rid of. So that's the real reason that they were doing it.
So I'm going to follow up with a question in order to make this productive, because it seems like we're kind of going in circles. 60% uranium enrichment. Do you think this does not create, or do you not think this creates incentive for us to be able to enact something like the JCPOA again, where we ensure Iran doesn't enrich that much uranium? Or do you think it is more effective for us to be bombing their nuclear sites, and not only doing that, but killing people in the process?
I think it's about really what we believe the motives of the Iranian regime to be fundamentally. If we just want to like get down to brass.
Yeah,
but let me answer your question though, right? Fundamentally, if we really just want to get down to brass tacks here, I don't think there's any deal that you could make that long term would prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons. Because when you just look at the statements of the leaders and the actions of the leaders, not just the statements in terms of sponsoring terror across the region, this is clearly an ideological Islamic regime on the extremist end. They believe in, values of martyrdom, killing the infidel, things like that, that they will not be contained long-term by any sort of on the paper agreement. What they were probably doing is building more centrifuges, scaling up their ability to enrich uranium very quickly should they need to. Like they were planning on getting nuclear weapons with or without the JCPOA would really be my fundamental point. But with the JCPOA, like, yes, it constrained them for a while, but it wasn't going to constrain them long term, which is ultimately why Trump left the deal, because he just saw the writing on the wall. Iran's going to get a nuclear weapon. We don't want that to happen. Let's just pull out of the deal and we're going to attack. I would say we knew we were going to attack Iran from the moment we left the JCPOA.
Yeah, so a few things here. First of all, what I'm sensing from this is a lot of feeling-based takes. You say things like there are statements within the regime and then probably building centrifuges, and you use all these kind of specific words that indicate these are feelings rather than the facts that we have. The fact of the matter is that Iran was following our plans and our legals and legalities that we had in the coalition with the JCPOA. So, like, what I'm hearing is just a lot of feelings-based stuff and not addressing the proof that we have that the deal was effective. And saying Trump left because he expected it to fail is not a legitimate argument. That doesn't justify him leaving it, and that doesn't disprove the legitimacy of having the JCPOA in place.
So, in terms of the argument that you're making, in terms of that I'm arguing for, like, based on feelings, right? I don't think that's true, right? So, I mean, I think Iran has shown themselves to be a bad faith actor in terms of just the way that they're operating. Oh, 100%. So we have the 2006 United Nations Security Council Resolution 1737. You have the 2011 United Security Council Resolution 1984, was about monitoring Iran's.
Could you go into detail with each of these?
Yeah, sure. So, like, for example, a recent one would be like 2024, right? So in 2024, I think it was the European Parliament, like the European Union, they passed a resolution condemning Iran's attack with missiles and drone attacks on Israel, right? And that was because they were sponsoring Hezbollah and the Houthis and those are explicitly Iranian-backed groups. They were sponsoring and funneling them money and funneling them weapons and materials to attack a sovereign state. Like, that's just reality.
So you agree that countries should be able to maintain their own sovereignty, correct?
Yeah, but Hezbollah and the Houthis have nothing to do with Iranian sovereignty. That's the thing.
No one's talking about Hezbollah, but you do agree that these states in the Middle East have the right to maintain their own sovereignty, correct?
It depends.
On what?
I suppose it depends on whether you have the military capability to project force to maintain your sovereignty, number one, just as a realpolitik point when you look historically. And then I would say,
because there are legal matters and precedent in place in order to preserve sovereignty. So when you talk about realpolitik and the history, we're regarding actual international law and the right for these states to maintain sovereignty. So I think that is irrelevant.
Yeah, but I mean, well, I can point to international condemnations of Iran's behavior, right? Like I did, and I referenced in the prior.
Yes, I can do the same with Israel. So that really gets us nowhere.
Yeah, which is why I'm saying, if you're asking me from a realpolitik standpoint, looking behind the
politik standpoint, I'm asking you from a general question. Do you think these established states have a right to maintain their own sovereignty?
Iran, Israel, yeah.
Okay, then. Okay. I'm glad we can establish that. So do you think, or actually rather, no, I'm not going to ask you a question. I don't think that we are ensuring Iran's sovereignty when we do strikes, especially at the behest of Israel, especially when we've tried to make a deal like last year, and then up until when Israel bombed, I think it was Qatar, where we tried to make a deal with Iranian officials in regards to uranium enrichment. So I don't think that it's effective for us to be able to do this and also infringe upon their sovereignty when doing things like that. So how do you contest that?
Well, it's ironic you accused me from arguing from emotion when you said on the behest of Israel. You have no evidence that we're doing this strike solely to benefit Israel. You have no actual. You can't point me to one international body. Wait, let me finish.
So you're
You
saying
can't
that
point me to one.
you're
Well, wait. Let me finish. Let me finish.
You're saying that the
Let me
U.S. was
wait.
going
Let me
to
finish my
strike
point. Let me
Iran
finish my plan.
regardless
Let me
of
finish. No, I'm
Israel.
not gonna. No, no, no. I'm not.
You said
So
you
wait.
think the U.S. is going to strike Iran regardless of Israel.
100% probably, but I'll explain my point. So for starters, well, you can laugh, but you're just arguing with emotion. So you can't point to
Oh, are
one
you using
international
my
body.
points now? You're using my points now. I like that. Okay,
Well, it's a good point.
not really
It's a good.
original.
If
Original, but go
it
ahead.
doesn't, it doesn't need to be original to be valid. 2 + 2 = 4. It's not original. It's still fact.
I mean,
So,
it's neither
but just
valid nor
to,
original.
well, it doesn't. Well, it is
Go
valid,
ahead.
right?
Go ahead.
Because you
Stop
can't.
filibustering.
I'm not filibustering. You're pivoting
You
so
are
hard here, but
filibustering.
so you can't point to one international organization that has confirmed that we did these strikes on the behalf of Israel. That's in direct contradiction to what the president of the United States indicated, to what the Defense Department indicated. You have no evidence that this strike was done solely to benefit Israel, or that we wouldn't have done it without Israel. You have no evidence.
So there's no
Point to me.
international organization that improves or proves the fact that AIPAC is influencing our Congress's decisions. No international body approves that. Doesn't mean it's not true, right? Facts can stand with or without international organizations backing them up, right? It's either a fact or it's a fact backed by an international organization, right? And we
So
have
your argument is that despite the Department of Defense and the President of the United States explicitly stating that we did not do this solely for Israel, but to stabilize the region and for our own interests, that is incorrect, that they're lying. Are they lying? Is the Department of War lying to us?
Pete Hegseth. I'd have incentive to believe that Pete Hegseth, sponsored by AIPAC and millions of dollars, has incentive to lie and say that this is solely for Israel. Marco Rubio himself slipped up and said that, hey, we are doing a joint strike for Israel in regards to the regime happening in Iran for regime change. And then he went back a day later and said that he misspoke. I mean, these people, they realize and they understand that this is at the behest of another nation. Iran has supposedly been days away from a nuclear weapon for 30 years now. Netanyahu, this is not his first run with Iran being a threat. I mean, this was a success with Syria. This was a success with Iraq. This is going to be a success with Iran. And then who knows? Turkey is next. So for you to feign ignorance and pretend that this is just something that's purely out of the incentive of the U.S. is actually crazy to me. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm not feigning.
Adjust that.
I will. I'm not feigning ignorance, but you stated as if it's a fact, like, oh, this is definitely at the behest of Israel. But we have. You can say okay, that's fair, but that's not what you said, right? If you said reason to believe, I would agree with you. I would say there's a believe, and there's enough evidence to where I would be willing to grant, yes, this is partially for Israeli benefit. I don't know what percent you would assign to that, but I'd be willing to grant that. But you didn't state that. You acted as if Netanyahu.
This is not partially.
Well,
this is entirely in the benefit of Israel.
Oh, it's definitely partially.
It is not.
It's absolutely partially.
This is
yes, it is
entirely. Iran serves no threat from the U.S., being thousands of miles away at 60% uranium enrichment. I hope that's something that we can establish here. This is more of
absolutely not.
Israel. This is more of a problem for Israel than it is for the U.S. So for you to say partially, that's like counting it as a 50-50. This is more like a 95-5. I'll grant you that. But this is definitely
no. It's definitely. I would even honestly. I would even say it's much closer to like 60-40 our end than it is 95-5. 100%. Absolutely. So Iran getting a nuclear weapon, as the Saudi prince spoke about, they said, and this is a direct quote from the Saudi prince, I think in 2024.
No. This is Iran having a nuclear weapon. I think we already established this, and now you're pivoting. No one said that.
No, I'm not. You didn't let me finish, so you can't know whether I'm pivoting. You didn't let me finish, so you can't know if I'm pivoting. You didn't let me finish, so I can't know if I'm
conversation. I'm not going to let you finish.
No, but you can't tell if I'm pivoting if you don't let me finish the statement, right? You have to let me finish the statement in order to know whether I'm pivoting. You have to let me finish the statement in order to know whether I'm pivoting.
A point, real quick. You are establishing a point that Iran having a nuclear weapon is 60 U.S. and then 40 Israel. That is not what I'm contesting. Iran having a nuclear weapon is a problem for everybody, point blank, period. And we established that early on into this debate. What we are establishing is that Iran, in this point and period of time, with their 60% uranium enrichment and their efforts to make diplomatic talks with the US, is more of a problem for Israel than it is for the US by a long shot. Go ahead.
Are you going to let me finish this time?
You're going to quote the Saudi prince that poses, or yes, Iran, of course, poses a threat to Saudi Arabia if they have a nuclear weapon. It's to all of us.
That's not the point I was going to make, which
Your
is why
entire
you
point.
should let people
entire
finish. But no, you don't know my point because you haven't let me finish the point.
You said
That's the
Iran
problem
having a
here.
nuclear problem is more of a problem for the US than it is for Israel. That's not what I'm contesting.
Well, let me just make my point, and then you can maybe push back, and we can kind of develop the conversation, right?
How much development are we going to make here? Because it seems to me as though there's not going to be that much when you aren't addressing.
I think it's been a pretty fruitful discussion, but I think
you know what? Yeah, I
I
appreciate that you've lasted this far, but I just want to point out that you haven't addressed the points that I made about our leadership saying that this was at the benefit of another country, that our leadership has been provided aid on the behalf of another country. Like, do you disagree with the fact that they may have incentive to do this for another nation?
No, I don't disagree with that. I don't think APAC should be. I don't believe in that. Our politicians should be receiving overwhelming donations from any, political or international organization. Like, I think they should represent us. But the point I was making about with Saudi Arabia is that to act as if Iran having nuclear weapons doesn't have massive implications for not just the entire region, for the economy, the political stability, the society. Iran having nuclear weapons, the Saudi Arabia prince said, if they get a nuclear weapon, we have to get one. So immediately, you're risking other nation states immediately pursuing nuclear weapons, right? That's a problem for not just the region, but for the entire planet. So we have huge interests economically, socially, politically, geopolitically in not allowing Iran to get a nuclear weapon. To act like it's just like Israel's whipping us like a dog and it's like 95-5. It's much more 60-40 our end, because who benefits from the globalized system we have today? We do. We're the overwhelming benefit, GDP per capita wise. Our economy's global, our culture's global. We benefit hugely from the current system remaining in place. I would grant you 60-40 Israel, 40% us, but I'm not going to grant you 95-5. That's ridiculous.
I don't think it's that ridiculous because, first of all, Iran having a nuclear weapon is a problem for everybody, point blank, period. But we have no incentive in bombing this nation and further incentivizing the leadership of this country and its nuclear programs to further develop their weapons as a deterrence. I think it's important to understand that we have nuclear weapons for a certain reason in this world, in the world that we have today. I think it's 8 or 9, or is it 10? It doesn't matter. These countries, this handful amount of nuclear weapons, have them because they are deterrents to anyone that poses a threat to the sovereignty of that nation. So Iran having a nuclear weapon, this is something we both agree with. So I don't understand why you're wasting breath pointing this out. Iran having a nuclear weapon is a problem, point blank, period. But the US has no incentive to be bombing and infringing on the sovereignty of another nation when we can go through diplomatic efforts as we have in the past and as they have been effective, because proven to be effective methods of ensuring that they don't have uranium enrichment. Because not only did it decrease 98%, yes, 98%. I don't think we're adjusting that figure, but also them being still transparent with the IAEA checks with their nuclear program. And also, why does Israel have nuclear weapons, right? Why is Israel not transparent with their nuclear program?
Yeah, I mean, it's long been speculated that Israel has nuclear weapons. It's not confirmed by anyone. Like, we don't actually know. I would presume, but we don't know. Like, to say we know with 100% certainty is not true, because if that were true, then international bodies would have affirmed it was true. So now I believe they do, and I think they've kept it a secret, but we don't know. Like, when people say, like, we know, like, I'm willing to grant that it's true, but we don't know it's true, because I'm not willing to say it's absolutely true until an international body has affirmed, like, yes, they possess nuclear weapons. But in terms of your prior point, it's really because the Iranian regime is a lot different than the other countries that have nuclear weapons. Like, they're It's not like China having nukes. It's not
Okay,
like India or
first of all,
Pakistan having nukes.
sorry, just to interrupt. I'll let you finish your point. Sorry, but real quick, I just had to research that point you made real quick because even though international bodies haven't affirmed this, Israeli leadership themselves have affirmed this. Ehud Olmert, the former prime minister of Israel, I think he served from about like 2004, 2008. He affirmed that Israel had nuclear weapons, and he wasn't the only person to do so. So we know that Israel does have nuclear weapons. But continue your point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to affirm that Israel most likely has nuclear weapons. Again, I don't know if he said that to psychologically. I'm not willing to concede it because until it's registered with the non-prolifer. I mean, you can laugh, but until it's affirmed with the non-proliferation treaty at the United Nations, I'm assuming he could have said that to gain geopolitical advantage. I could assume 500 different things. It doesn't really make a difference. But the point I was making with the prior
Israel's not part of the NPT. So I don't understand.
Yeah, but the point of there would be immense pressure if they affirmed if the government of Israel while they were serving said, yeah, we have nuclear weapons, there would be immense pressure for them to join that.
There's no pressure on Israel,
right? And they haven't faced
some part of the NPT. Israel has remained. Israel is the only country in the entire world to remain an ambiguity policy, where they don't affirm whether or not they have nuclear weapons. Israel's the only country to do this. They have no pressure up until this point to be part of the NPT because they have that policy. So how does that make sense?
Yeah, I know. Well, it makes sense because what I'm saying is I'm willing to grant the assumption to you that like what you're saying is true in terms of Israel having nuclear weapons, but I'm not willing to go as far. It is an assumption until there would be immense.
We've had Israeli leadership technicians within Israel's nuclear program even admit this. Like, this is a fact.
I don't care about what prior leadership or what nuclear engineers or whatever said. All I care about is whether the Israeli government officially comes out and says, yes, we have nuclear weapons, and then they would be registered or pressured internationally.
The prime minister of Israel, the spearhead of that nation, says that they have nuclear weapons. Best believe I'm going to believe the leader of Israel when he says that. It doesn't matter whether he had incentive to lie or whatnot. We're going to hold, because I don't understand the double standard that you have when you hold Iranian leadership to their word when they say things that are posing as a threat to America. But when Ehud Olmert does it, you are suspicious. You are much more suspicious of it. Oh, he could have incentive to lie. Where is that suspicion when it comes to Iran's leadership?
Yeah, I don't think that Ehud Olmert or Yitzhak Rabin or Benjamin Netanyahu or Naftali Bennett have ever said that they possess nukes. I would push back on that statement. I don't think they ever affirmed that they had nuclear weapons. I don't believe that's true. But even if it is true,
now you're shifting your stance from just because
no, I'm denying your claim.
No.
I'm denying your claim entirely.
No. Earlier, just a few seconds ago, you said he had incentive to lie, and then you had all this level of suspicion. Now you're saying that you don't believe that Ehud Olmert said this point blank, period. Now you're just shifting.
No, I'm saying he could. I'm not shifting my stance at all. I'm saying he could have had incentive. No, he could have had incentive to lie, but I'm saying until the Israeli government officially says, yes, we possess nuclear weapons, and that is registered either under the Non-Proliferation Treaty or some other international treaty where they go in and send observers and actually measure and quantify the amount that they have, and that is registered in a document that's publicly viewable that I can analyze, that's signed off by scientists and PhDs and other experts who are... I'm not going to trust that it's 100% certain.
This is impossible as long as Israel remains its ambiguity policy. No expert is going to be... John F. Kennedy pushed on this, by the way. He pushed on Israel maintaining its ambiguity back even in the 50s. Back in the 50s.
Yeah.
With the nuclear...
You're misunderstanding what I'm saying, though. With all respect, let me clarify this.
Can I clarify what I think your point is and then address it?
No, because because I think you're... Okay, here's the thing. I disagree with Israel's nuclear ambiguity stance.
Okay.
I think they should register their nuclear weapons. All I'm saying is I'm not going to go to 100%, yes, they absolutely have nuclear weapons until I know it's true, right? I believe it's true. I'm 80% there with you, but I'm not going to certainty in the same way I am with other absolute certainty until that nuclear ambiguity has been ended, which, by the way, I believe Israel does have an obligation to end that nuclear ambiguity stance.
So do you think, so for the sake of conversation, do you think we can assume or treat Israel like a nuclear power?
Yes, I believe it is most likely that they have nuclear weapons.
Okay. But
but
yeah,
I'm not willing to say it as a statement of fact.
really. I mean, even look,
I just outlined why, man. I just gave a very
and it could
reasonable
be
reason why.
no, your desire for proof was international bodies coming in and inspecting and doing all these background or doing these checks within Israel's nuclear program. But Israel isn't
Yes.
going to let that happen. So
Yeah, I disagree with that.
and we live in a world where that's not going to happen anytime soon. So it's dependent on other factors, maybe outside international organizations, like, I don't know, maybe the leadership of Israel admitting they have nuclear weapons, or technicians in the nuclear program they have weapons. Like, we have a lot of reason to believe that Israel does have weapons, and I think we can establish that this is a fact. This is a fact that Israel is a nuclear power. I don't, and then just like your 80-20, I think it's completely insignificant, especially when we already treat Israel as a nuclear power. But then again, Netanyahu has been at this claim, because we're gonna progress. Netanyahu has been at the claim that Iran has been days away from a nuclear weapon for years, decades. And now in 2026, he's more correct than he was 30 years ago. I mean, this rhetoric is old. It's tiring. We've seen it over and over again. And I think that the US has no incentive to be doing this, because not only does this pose as a national security threat, head of DHS, or Pete Hegseth, sorry, he warned us. He warned us about possible terrorist attacks happening within our own country as a result of our strikes in Iran. You can research this. This is a national security threat to America. 3 US soldiers died in what the fuck is the country below, or Kuwait. 3 American soldiers died in Kuwait as a result of our strikes on Iran. We have no incentive, whether it be the lives of Americans, the tax dollars that get sent, or the lack of sovereignty and the breaking of international law when we do the things that we do on the behest of Israel with Iran. So it's crazy to me for you to believe that we actually have incentive to do otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's. I mean, you can disagree with that. I wouldn't say it's a crazy position. I mean, in terms of the argument that like Iran as this this argument's old. They've said that they were pursuing nuclear weapons before, so why should we believe them now? I mean, it's such a lazy. Like, it's people who don't want to do the research, right? They don't want to look into the numerous instances throughout history that Israel, the United States, and other governments, mostly in Europe, have interfered with Iran's development of nuclear weapons, right? So you can look at like the Stuxnet cyber attack that happened in 2010. That was an Israeli operation that caused some estimate like 1,000 centrifuges to spin out of control and be disabled, right? So you can look at the assassination of nuclear scientists that took place around, I think, 2012 or 2014, where they killed, what was his name? Masood Ali Mohammadi, right? He was killed by a remote bomb. I mean, there's all these examples. The Natanz centrifuge factory explosion in 2020, right?
Countries
So
countries breaking international law does not justify their attacks or justify an incentive to believe that Israel or Iran is building nuclear weapons. Like, they are.
No, the point I'm trying to make is that the point I'm trying to make is that Iran has been. It's not like. No, but wait, let me finish. It's not like Netanyahu and all of these people in Israel have been saying Israel's
Here's the thing. No,
Okay.
because your point, I'm gonna address why your point doesn't have any actual standing here. Your point is that countries have stepped in order to prevent Iran from actually advancing and developing its nuclear program. We have no proof of whether or not these illegal attacks made a permanent difference in Iran's enrichment program. We do have proof that the JCPOA made a difference, a significant difference, a 98% reduction in Iran's enrichment, with several global powers with a stake at play here. Because the US, believe it or not, is not the only person that's in trouble if Iran were to have a nuclear power. This is collectively agreed upon all political scientists, that any person or body with a nuclear weapon poses a threat to every other nation, because it automatically has a deterrence and an advantage. So Iran having a nuclear weapon was a threat to the US, Russia, China, and everybody involved in the JCPOA, hence their involvement. So for you to sit here and say that we have a history of attacks on Iran's programs, proving that they had incentive to believe that they were advancing it, we have no proof of whether or not they made a drastic difference or a drastic development, and nor were they legal. But the one instance where we have a legal and effective and provable way of Iran of maintaining its enrichment below nuclear capacity, you disregard that. So I as a person who follows facts have more.
I don't disregard it. I'm not saying
you
the
said
JCPOA.
JCPOA shouldn't have happened. That's what you said earlier, and now you're just
Yeah, I don't think. No. Wait, just to clarify, I didn't say that the JCPOA did not. It worked. It held them below the amount that they needed to enrich nuclear weapons. I'm saying it was not a good deal. I don't think it was sufficient, but it worked.
But that's not what we're debating, though.
I know, but you acted as if I just like said, "Oh, the JCPOA is shit. It doesn't work at all." That's not what I said at all.
If you're arguing that Iran having nuclear weapons is something that we shouldn't have, I'm arguing the same. So going off of that, going off of both of us prioritizing Iran not having a nuclear weapon, I think it's irrelevant as to whether or not it was a good or bad deal. I think a more productive conversation is, should we be relying on instances where these things that we have in place were productive or not? And they were. But you cannot prove whether or not Iran had permanently or significantly reduced its enrichment as a result of illegal attacks.
Yeah, I mean, that's never going to be made public in the same way like Israel's nuclear ambiguity stance. I agree with that. But the point I'm trying to make is, for me, it ultimately comes down to this. Like, if you really just want to get to like the nuts and bolts of this, Iran is an Islamic fascist theocratic regime. They have beliefs and ideologies that are fundamentally incompatible with modern society, and they need to be toppled because they have a belief on martyrdom for holy war. They have a ton of beliefs that are fundamentally antithetical to the stability of the human species and the stability of the region of the Middle East. It's not like Pakistan, which is a parliamentary democracy. They're also Muslim, but they're far less extreme than Iran is. Iran is a country run by imams. It is a country that has a very explicit, or at least the leadership does, not the people. By the way, 80% of the Iranians want a new government. That's also something we should, kind of mention. 80% of the Iranians don't want to be under this sort of Islamic fascist regime, right? So I just think that a regime like that has a very explicit religious ideology, an idea that, death is welcomed because God, wants us to fight for him, or like all these combinations, this toxic brew of bad ideas. They should be toppled. It would be the equivalent of like, it's like the equivalent of like Pope Urban. If we had a Pope Urban III, and he's like, like this whole Protestant, atheist, secular thing going on right now, like I don't really want that to continue, so I'm going to develop nuclear weapons. And by the way, if I get them, I'm definitely going to use them and strike you. And then we're like, oh, sign this agreement to postpone doing that for 15 years. And he's like, all right, I'll just do that, and then I'll build my centrifuges, and I still have the same ideology, so I'll just do it later. It's about the ideology, fundamentally. That's really the reason we're doing this, because we don't trust that the Iranian regime is a rational actor, which they're not, and they've demonstrated that throughout the decades.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to address this point by point, because you said several things that some things I may agree with to a certain extent, but some things are just not true. First of all, Pakistan being a democracy. There is a collective agreement that Pakistan right now is a dictatorship, and this has been the case for decades. So Pakistan is not a democracy, it is a dictatorship. And it's surprising to me that there's this suspicion. There's an absence of suspicion in Iranian leadership with the comments that they make on the West, but no suspicion on the leadership of Israel whatsoever. And then you talk about ideology a lot. You say that this millennial fanaticism, which is what this is called, by the way, millennial fanaticism and their leadership of Iran being a threat. The Iranian leadership and their theology is dangerous to the neighboring nations, especially Israel. Well, Mike Huckabee, the U.S. or the Israel ambassador to the U.S., has said that Israel is entitled to a greater Israel, the entirety of the Middle East. So when we talk about theology, let's consider Zionism. Let's consider greater Israel. let's consider the fact that there is actual legitimate evidence to believe that this other nation has incentive to act, or actually has a theological belief that they are entitled to the rest of the land. So to believe that this is completely one-sided, with one side maintaining its sovereignty and the other having a theological craze, is not only in bad faith, but it's just not true. But if you have any closing remarks, please say them, because I know we've been doing this for a hot minute. But go ahead. But I mean,
Yeah, I mean, just
go ahead. Sorry.
just to, yeah, I'll offer us some closing statements. So I would say, like, what that was right there was a fallacy of it was a false equivalency. It was a false equivalency or a non sequitur. So what you were saying was that, well, I mean, there's all these other extremist groups in the Middle East. Therefore, Iran's extremism is okay, or it shouldn't be
I addressed that
targeted.
suspicion. I addressed that with the suspicion point that I made earlier in my argument. But continue.
Yeah, I mean, but what you were really saying is, like, we shouldn't treat Iranian extremism in any different way than we treat any other extremism. And I mean, I get your point. Like, I'm not saying Israel isn't a threat to the stability of the region. They definitely are, right? They have guys like Ben Gavir who are referencing Amalek and doing a bunch of crazy fucked up shit, right?
Yeah.
They're still a massive threat. But the point I'm making is, like, so is Iran, and I don't want Iran to have nukes, which is why I support the strikes, which was the initial opening of the debate.
Okay. Yeah, well, just one last remark I'll make, and then we'll move on. I point that out because, I mean, former U.S. Army veteran, Colonel something, I can't remember his name. I think it was John Soff. But he said that this essentially is not a video game. You don't topple the person at the top and expect the entire regime to change. We did this in Venezuela when we took out Maduro. It was only replaced by someone else within his own regime. We did this in Syria when Assad left, when we backed the Syrian rebellion forces, and he was replaced by someone that's debatably worse. And Syria is also a shithole right now. So to believe that getting rid of Ayatollah Khomeini as an individual and then a handful of the people around him is going to get rid of this regime, so history shows us otherwise. And you do cite history in real politics. This is not the case. And this most definitely won't solve it. And I think this creates further incentive for Iran to rush to build a nuclear weapon so their sovereignty isn't infringed upon again. And this is a point
Well, just ask a question.
John Mearsheimer also makes in his book. But go ahead.
Just ask a question. So would you agree with me that if Israel had someone else besides Netanyahu, it would be far better off than it is now?
It would be what?
Do you agree that if Israel was not being, if the prime minister of Israel right now was not Netanyahu, the country would be far better off, and so would the region?
No, I don't think it would make a difference, because most likely it's going to be someone similar, if not worse, than Netanyahu. And that's the entire point I'm making here, that getting rid of the person at top is not going to eradicate an entire system built upon this set of beliefs. And if we want anything, and if we want to actually consider the beliefs of the Iranian people, who consider this man very unpopular, we don't take out their leadership and infringe upon their sovereignty. Because what we see in Western media does not reflect the realities of Iran. These people are taking to the streets considering Ayatollah Khomeini a martyr. There are videos of this. The real reporters out in Iran are actually documenting this. These people are furious. They're frustrated. And honestly, this was a mistake. And if we want them to be able to maintain their own sovereignty and to maintain their own independence, we don't do it by dropping bombs on their heads, right? We don't do it by bombing elementary schools when we're trying to target nuclear programs, right? So I don't think that if we truly are taking into consideration the Iranian people and their desire, because we think that they agree with us that this leadership shouldn't be in place, then we shouldn't do it through the methods that we currently are. But yeah, I don't think that if Netanyahu were to be removed, that Israel would be far better off. I think it wouldn't make that much of a difference. But
okay, I mean, that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, I mean, unless you had anything else to say, I appreciate you for coming on here. I genuinely appreciate it, because this opens up new perspectives, and I'm gonna for sure think about the things you said today. But I'm glad we could have this exchange, and it seemed productive to me for the most part. But
yeah. I think it was. Oh, and by the way, just to make my opinion but it was really good discussion. I appreciate it. But just to also make my opinion here really clear, right? Like, the U.S., like, we're being run right now by, really, it's this strand of Protestant insanity that believes that all the Jews have to return to Israel and they have to achieve greater Israel and then build the third temple. We're being run by, that's who we're being run by right now. Like I say that as a Catholic, like I'm a Catholic myself, right? So like
Really?
I recognize we're doing this for ideological reasons too. Like we're being run by Christian nut jobs. Israel's being run by Jewish nut jobs. Iran's being run by Muslim nut jobs. Like it's not like I'm like, oh, they're evil. Like I just think that if we have a chance to topple one of these regimes, great. Like if you told me like, hey, if we could get rid of the Israeli system and snap our fingers and they would be more like peaceful and calm and they would try to like, yeah, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. But like it's just not in our capability right now. Like I just want a world where crazy people don't have nukes, and that includes us, by the way. You think I want Trump in charge of nukes? I'd rather give the gas station employee the keys to the nukes, bro. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, as these neocons and warhawks are dying off, I have hope. I have hope that this generation, especially with people like yourself and ourselves, that we can actually make something like that be able to come to fruition, or at least make significant progress in these next few
that APAC money ain't dying off, though. Like Israel has
Yeah, dude,
massive. I mean, like again, like I'm not ideological about this.
Yeah.
Israel has massive influence in our government,
Yeah.
massive. And
I mean-
but it's not only because of the money, though. It's because, and this is really the uncomfortable part.
Yeah.
There's a group of Protestants in this country that are not small. They're sizable. They have a huge group. They really do believe, look, the Jews have to return to Israel. Now, what they don't tell the Jews is, by the way, once you guys return, 80% of you are going to die when Christ returns, but that's a minor detail. But you all have to return to Israel, and then we have to establish greater Israel. We have to build the third temple, got to get rid of Al-Aqsa Mosque, and then we have to sacrifice a red cow. This is literally what they believe.
Yeah.
And they're serious. They're not kidding. So, like, yeah, I would love to think like, oh, if we just got rid of APAC money, that would go away. I don't think it would.
Yeah. No, these Christian Zionists, they're a real thing. And sometimes they're more of a threat than the actual people who are governing APAC, I would say. And that sounds crazy, but if you think about it.
Hugely.
Yeah. So
hugely.
Yeah.
I would say the ideology is far more, dude. The ideology of Christian Zionism is far more dangerous than APAC money by far. Like even if you weren't paying these people, they would still pursue it. In the same way a kamikaze bomber from Japan dives his plane into the boat. Like it's not a rational thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That fanaticism definitely drives them to do things like that. But hey, man, I appreciate you once again for coming on. And yeah, I sent you a friend request. But I look forward to maybe doing this again in the future. Or are you sticking around and tuning in?
Yeah, no worries, man.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Likewise.
Good talking to you.
Likewise.
First debate, over an hour long, just over an hour. Feel.
Honestly, if I did a little research before doing this, there would have been no argument. But I think I did really well. I honestly think I did amazing, but I don't know. What do you think?
I would have spoken on it more if I knew what you guys were talking about.
Dude.
I'm not that knowledgeable on Israel and Iran and all the stuff that's happening over there right now. I'm kind of more focused on stuff that's happening in the United States. Like I'm not trying to say that what's happening in Iran doesn't affect.
I mean, there's a reason why professions like majors exist. You know what I mean? Like people focus on different things. So it's better to have a really good opinion on one thing than to have an opinion on or a mediocre opinion on everything. Yeah. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, next time we can.
Very good first debate.
Yeah.
First debater ever, and it was an actual debate instead of just blabbering back and forth and insulting each other.
Yeah, dude.
That's what I felt our first interviewee was like. Our first debatee was gonna be. It's gonna be some
nut job.
I don't know, like some nut job. Yeah.
Damn. He joined right before I was gonna find a song to post that we were going live. So now, I mean, we didn't. Actually, I could just clip this. We can make clips out of this.
Yeah.
Dude, that was really good.
I did not speak on it at all. I didn't speak for a solid hour, dude.
You're good. But
like really fun. I had a peak of 10 viewers at one point.
Yeah.
Nobody else joined though, but it's fine. I mean, we had 10 people that were listening to. No. We did have 10 people that were listening and hopefully
Did
their
they follow?
minds were changed. Nope. You know, it's okay. It's
You're
okay.
right, dude. Honestly, it's all about consistency. We just do this for a while, then
Yeah.
it's just a matter of time.
I hope to get like one more short debate in, like a half-hour debate, and then I'm gonna turn off the stream. Maybe someone will be willing to join. I'm not sure. How many YouTube viewers do you have right now?
1.
Okay.
1.
I have 2 viewers on Twitch right now, including myself. Person, if you're watching, if you want to join, I've pasted the Discord link in the chat a lot.
Even
if you want
if
to come
you
up
agree
and
with
voice
us.
your opinion,
Even if you
agree with us,
Yeah.
we would still love to talk. It doesn't matter what you think of, but either way, we're open to any debate or conversation. If not, I appreciate you for sticking in this long and listening to what these 2 fine gentlemen that were just up here had to say. Yeah, that's about all I have for now. We're just gonna chill a little bit until we get somebody, at least one more person, because I want to do 2 debates, and hopefully I will actually get some debating time, because I didn't do shit in that debate because I had no idea what half the shit you guys were talking about. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping this next one will be different. But
hopefully you can stay on topic too, because the entire point of this was people that were MAGA. But
I had a few friends pop in as well into the stream. Yeah.
I'm happy. That was good. I can at least make content out of that. But the thing is though, I've made like 6 or 7 videos so far, no pun intended, and no subscriber boosts, or like no subscribers.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right, dude. I'm in this for the long game, dude. We're like 18, like surely by 20.
Yeah.
Like, dude, come on.
And you're the poli-sci major too, so
yeah, appreciate it.
I'm just here.
And then you're gonna move out to LA.
Yep.
Yep. That didn't sound reassuring. Dude, that shit was low-key dehydrating. I had to get a lot of sips in.
You gotta find me a goth baddie while you're there, bro.
Dude, they're everywhere. You're in LA.
For real?
Mm-hmm.
For real? Damn. Okay. Gotcha.
Dude, let's just play Brawl Stars.
Dude, not on stream. Should I end the stream?
Yeah. We'll call it a night.
All right. To everyone, if anyone's watching this in the future, I really appreciate you popping in and listening to what everyone else had to say.
Mm-hmm.
We will be open to more political discussions always. There's nothing else to add, Erfan, then we'll go ahead and turn off the stream.
I mean, thank you so much to everybody that tuned in. We love the support, and we're just getting into this. We're brand new. So, I mean, when time comes and we marinate more and more throughout this entire journey, expect only greatness. But thank you so much.
Yeah.
Love y'all. Yeah.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Good night, everyone.
If you didn't remember, make sure to drink water.
Mm-hmm.
Stay hydrated. Get a good enough sleep.
Yes, sir.
But that's it. I'll see you guys in the next stream.
Adios, muchachos.